Henry's twisted logic really did comfort Dorian Gray. He looked up and acknowledged Henry's words, saying, "Henry, you've helped me understand myself." He even seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. So, Henry used Sibyl's death to give a brilliant lesson, brilliant in quotes. Dorian's faintly resisting conscience and remaining moral reasoning were completely poisoned. From then on, he embarked on a path of no return, as the masterpiece most cherished by his mentor. If the portrait grows old, ugly, and hideous, let it be. Why dig into it? The most important thing is that I, Dorian Gray, stay forever young. So Dorian pulled the screen back in front of the portrait, covering its original position, smiling as he did so. Then he went into the bedroom. His servant was there, ready to help him change. An hour later, Dorian Gray was sitting in the opera house, listening to Lord Henry leaning in and speaking to him. He completely forgot about Sibyl and her death. If Dorian Gray's desire to marry Sibyl was an insincere statement, filled with hypocrisy and self-deception, sometimes we find that hypocrisy and self-deception can be better than cold reality. When Dorian Gray was willing to deceive himself, it meant he wasn't ready to admit he was completely fallen. He wanted to believe he could offer genuine love, treat Sibyl well, and that entering a worldly marriage might offer a different possibility for his life. Unfortunately, Lord Henry changed him, or you could say the author Wilde didn't give Dorian Gray such a chance. Sibyl was dead, and Dorian's soul's ugliness was unavoidable. So he chose to fall further into depravity, sliding deeper into the abyss. He hid the portrait in the old study that was hardly used anymore, covering it with a purple curtain. He didn't want to see the ugliness of his own soul. Next, Dorian developed a strong interest in various forms of art. He seemed genuinely immersed in the ocean of beauty and love, studying tapestries, jewelry, fashion, music, and even religious art elements. He maintained a dignified appearance, sometimes active in high society, and at other times mingling in darker places like opium dens. People are always split this way, half angel, half devil, battling each other at crucial moments. For Dorian Gray, this was just a way of seeking sensations, a means of escape to avoid the moral warnings brought by that hideous portrait. Let the portrait bear the burden of his aging and evil. But as the portrait grew uglier, it also bound Dorian Gray. Even with the door tightly locked and the key always with him, Dorian constantly worried that his evil secrets would be discovered. He became increasingly afraid to leave London, even to leave his own home. As he committed more and more evil deeds, the portrait's beauty further deteriorated. Its grace gradually vanished. Dorian Gray had so desecrated his own portrait that it suffered disgrace. Meanwhile, Dorian Gray maintained his beauty, vitality, and sense of purity. But just thinking about that portrait continuing to exist forever gave him chills. Once the artist came by again, wanting to see his exquisite work. But Dorian Gray refused. Why? Because he was afraid to reveal his sordid secrets to the artist. But for a moment, he even felt a bit of regret, wondering why he had hidden the portrait. Why couldn't he tell the artist the truth? The artist was just and would surely help me resist Lord Henry's influence and the harmful aspects of my own nature, preventing me from living in shadows. Indeed, the artist could have helped Dorian Gray, but it was too late now. Time passed, and Dorian committed countless evil deeds, but his appearance still seemed to inspire admiration. Meanwhile, the portrait gradually became bald, with murky eyes, wrinkled skin, and a face full of malice. 18 years passed, and Dorian Gray was 38. To others, he seemed to retain his beauty forever, still resembling the image created by the artist Hallward, which captivated many. However, strange rumors about Dorian's lifestyle had spread throughout London and became a hot topic in clubs. People said that many young men were deceived by his appearance, but after admiring and getting close to him, they slowly became corrupted, leading to their downfall and committing numerous wrongs. Was this true? Even though many had heard extreme accusations against Dorian Gray, whenever they saw him, they couldn't believe that someone so pure-looking and charming could engage in disreputable actions. Because he always looked like a pure youth untouched by the corrupt world. A strange phenomenon occurred. People would be discussing sordid matters, saying, "Dorian Gray did all this? Really?" But as soon as Dorian walked into the room, the conversation would fall silent. Why? Seeing his innocent face made people feel guilty. Whenever he was present, people would reflect, "We once were like him, as if a flawless white wall, but we spoiled ourselves." They had become what they disliked, but not him. Look, he still looked so captivating. Thus, Dorian Gray's deceptive appearance fooled many. After all, high society often judges by looks. Perhaps this is the truth Wilde wanted to reveal. Dorian Gray often mysteriously disappeared for long periods, leading to various odd speculations among his friends and those who thought they were his friends. So, what did he do during his absences? Sometimes he engaged in misdeeds. Other times he went nowhere but returned home alone, secretly going upstairs to the locked study and unlocking it with his ever-present key. Then the portrait would appear. Dorian Gray would hold a mirror, standing in front of the portrait painted by Hallward, glancing at the increasingly hideous and aged face in the painting, and then at his own handsome face, smiling back at him in the mirror. What kind of sensation did this stark contrast bring? Perhaps it's unexpected, but it stimulated a sense of pleasure in him. Yes, he had fully embraced this split life. He became more enamored with his beauty and more appreciative of his soul's corruption. Thus, he was irredeemably lost, unable to turn back. Even though there were many rumors about Dorian Gray in London, these rumors only increased his allure, making him seem strange and dangerous. People were always curious about him and unconsciously drew closer, attracted to him, and then fell into darkness. Once the artist Hallward visited again, advising Dorian Gray, "You must regulate your behavior. You are so pure and beautiful. Don't waste these gifts." Driven by a peculiar pleasure, Dorian Gray revealed the truth to Hallward, laying it all bare, and took him to see the portrait, showing his current soul. The portrait had become hideously ugly and extremely corrupted. This shocked the artist, who desperately pleaded with Dorian to turn away from his corruption, saying it was not too late. But the obsessed Dorian would not listen. He took a knife and killed the artist, his only true friend who cared for him. His hands were stained with blood. Thus, Dorian Gray not only committed murder, but also personally strangled his last shred of conscience, ruining any chance of redemption and becoming a complete demon.